Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. Superbikes are on tap. Hey, it's a Superbike Superstock 1000 class. You want to know the differences between the two bikes? Here you go.
Huge difference between this bike and a Superbike. A Superbike is allowed many more modifications. This is really just a stock motorcycle that we run around the racetrack. What we really have here is a bone stock Kawasaki ZX-10. We're allowed to make some modifications to the brakes and slight modifications to the engine, add a data logger and a kit ECU you can buy right from your Kawasaki dealer. Other than that, we're looking at a stock ZX-10.
The Superbike's highly modified 1000. Basically the same engine cases, frame, and swing arm is what we have to use for the regulations. After that, we get to modify pretty much everything else. We can change camshaft, we can change swing arm pivot position, we can change offset, we can change triple clamp, we can change front fork tubes, inners, we can change brakes, we can add more compression to give them more power, we can pretty much change everything. We can change the bodywork, we can change windscreens and anything for aerodynamics. There's endless possibilities in changing the Superbike, and yeah, there's such a difference between that and Superstock. Superstock is basically just a stock bike, and we can modify just about everything. They look the same from the outside, but same manufacturers, but they're just not the same bikes. Everything's completely different.
Yeah, they're definitely completely different, Jason. Those Superbikes, a lot of horsepower, a lot of adjustability.
Yeah, but when you think about it, when you think about that, we had a Superstock bike leading the race. So as big of a difference as there is, they're really quite similar when you look at horsepower and getting that power to the ground. And that's what it's all about as we look at some race one highlights.
The race one happened earlier on today. It was a little chillier, the wind was blowing, but that sun was shining. And number one is Cameron Beaubier, who got out front early. The story of this race had to be number 4, Josh Hayes, for sure, as he was gridded 10th. But how about the number 2 of Josh Herron? That's a Superstock 1000 bike. You just heard it. And Josh Herron started to march forward on that machine that is slightly different than a Superbike. And there's the number 4, Josh Hayes, just behind number 32, Jake Gagne. And it was this move right here when it shocked us all as the number 2, Josh Herron, went to the front. But then lines intersected. Roger Hayden hit Josh Herron in the foot, lost the rear end. He went down, and he was not happy. And that left this battle between the number 95, Yoshimura Suzuki of Roger Hayden, and number 4, Josh Hayes, to duke it out.
Yeah, and then did you see, Josh got the lead, got into some traffic, went a little bit right up in turn 7. Roger was able to get back by him, but then the door was opened a little bit more. You don't need to tell Josh Hayes twice. He's going to go slide right back underneath Raj as they head into turn 1. And then we saw this scary moment for Jake Gagne where he gets up to the top of the hill there. Big head shake. And what we've come to find out is he actually cracked the throttle on during that whole process. I had made the comment that maybe it was the brakes. We'll get back to that in a minute. Josh Hayes was able to hold Raj off at the line. So
first win of the year for Josh Hayes. Roger Hayden, another second spot, and Tony Elias rounding out your top 3. And Jason, back to the Jake Gagne thing, as Cameron Beaubier was able to salvage a 4th place finish. Basically what happened is he tried to grab the brake lever, and he just rolled the throttle on,
gave it a little bit of gas.
Initially the crew said brake pads as well.
And what I've just had handed to me literally while we were doing that little piece there is the fact that Jake Gagne will not be starting race 2. So maybe he hurt himself a little bit there. We just got that handed. Here we go. The standings after that last race, Josh Hayes at 117 points after only winning his first race of the year at round 4. Roger Hayden second, 14 points back. Cameron Beaubier 16 points back. Tony Elias 22 points back. So top 4 guys separated by 22 points with our first Superstock bike. 5th, Claudio Corte, 41 points back, but leading the Superstock class.
By the way, the only rider in the top 5 to finish all the races this year, Roger Hayden. So he's sitting back there, 14 points adrift, as we take a look back through the field with Hayden Gillum, Danny Eslick. Larry Pegram, that was his one appearance at New Jersey Motorsports Park, had a couple great results. Corey Alexander in 14th. We expect him to be back. Sheridan Marias, who was in 13th, he didn't start the race. He had a crash earlier in the weekend, and he, along with the Dr. Rossi and his crew, decided that he should sit this day out. We'll take a break from Virginia International Raceway. When we come back, Superbike race action is coming up. Stay with us. Race number 2, let's take a look at the starting grid. As we can see that Cameron Beaubier, the time that he put down in Super Pole number 2, 24.358 to lead all riders in this field.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you got to look back here, we see row 2, Herron, Corti, Eslick, Fong, Taylor. Now, look at that, Josh Hayes, 3rd row this race. Why is that? Well, because Jake Gagne is out. So that's moving the champ up whole 1 row. That's a big deal, and he's going to be on the inside. If he can get a good jump, he might be in that top 4 by the time they get to turn 1.
That moved everyone up because that's the way it is in MotoAmerica. If a rider doesn't grid up, we don't leave that space empty. They fill it with riders. So Max Flinders on row number 7, Billy Etheridge, and on back to Josh Chisholm now. That row remains the same as Tony Leon gets to move up on the 186 another row. So right now it is that time of the race where you're going to take a look at the racetrack one more time at close to speed, get that heat in those Dunlop slicks, and think about what your race strategy is going to be. Start's so important in this series.
Yeah, and at this track specifically, because if you can get to that first little turn 4 section, turn 4, 5, 6, 7, if you can get there kind of in a good position, that's a spot where you can definitely start to see some gaps. This is the top part of the track now.
Now, Jason, on the Superbikes and Superstock 1000s, they have the ability to do launch control, which is available now on some street motorcycles.
Yeah.
What is launch control? How does that work?
Well, basically you can get that throttle and you can pin it wide open, and it's going to let the electronics control things a little bit more, so that when you release the clutch, it's going to help the bike start to drive itself forward. So
it's not a foolproof system, though.
No,
you still have to be good at starting.
You still have to be able to launch the bike and still have to be able to get it off the line. But yeah, it's just another aid that we have as riders that's going to help make things a little bit easier, a little bit nicer. And you'll hear a lot of these bikes right before when Greg gets ready to do the race call here in a minute. You're going to hear a lot of bikes on the limiters or thereabouts with a lot of RPM, and then the throttles will be launched, or the bikes will be launched.
A good look at the mix of motorcycles, those super bikes right there. Look at 95 and 1. That's that white backing on that number plate and the black number 1. And of course the Superstock 1000 machines competing for overall and in their class, like Josh Herron, right part of your screen, that number 2. That is red backing on that number plate and white number 2. So just like the 69 back there of Danny Eslick, a good way to distinguish those two classes as they race together.
And he gets really good starts, and he's been promoted to the 2nd row now. So he was on the outside of the 3rd. The outside of the 3rd. The green flag is up in the back, Greg.
All right, so once we see Rachel, the marshal, get out of the way and get to safety, that red light's going to go on. And here we go. It's race number 2 from Virginia International Raceway.
Wow, real even start. Look at Claudio Corti on the Aprilia. He might even try to mess around and go down the inside of a couple of these guys down into turn 1. Josh Herron out there too, but it's going to be, looks like Tony Elias leading into turn 1.
Could be the 24 of Tony Elias as we look at the back half of the field and navigate their way through turns number 1 and heading to turn number 2. And it is, look at that bright yellow helmet. And who is in 2nd place?
Claudio Corti.
Superstock 1000 rider Claudio Cordio, and a rider running wide there and falling over in the grass.
Looked like Ryan Jones. I could be wrong, but that's what it kind of looked like, Greg. Looked like Ryan Jones, and it's, boy, you get out in that grass and it's just so slick out there. But as we look at the rest of the tail end of the field, looked like they got through. We'll get back on that other rider, but back up at the front, Tony Elias is leading. Claudio Corti 2nd. It looked like Cam's 3rd, Raj 4th. So that's kind of the running order just by eye right now that I can see. And looks like Josh Hayes 6th, right behind Herron there. So
Roger Hayden right now, his plan that he talked about pre-race, talking about trying to get fast, get out early, and try to break away from some of these riders. He's going to have his work to do if he wants to make his plan come to reality.
We're going to see real quick if those changes on the front of the bike are going to give Tony a little bit more feel here at the front. If he starts putting his head down, starts getting away at all, we're going to know he's feeling pretty comfortable. Now, what I'm interested to see, and we saw that Yamaha of Josh Herron earlier be able to draft a couple of these Superbikes. What about the Aprilia? Let's see if the Aprilia can draft that Yoshimura Suzuki as they come across start, finish for the first time.
There goes Tony Elias deep into turn number 1. Claudio Corti on the 71. That Aprilia, the V4 motorcycle, it was protesting a little bit under heavy braking, but it looks like Tony Elias right now has good feel. 28.6, 28.5 by Corti to the 28.6 of Elias. The fastest lap of the race so far. Number 1 is Cameron Beaubier. 95 is Roger Hayden. And there is the number 2 of Josh Herron.
So now you got these super stock guys up there battling with, with our top Superbike guys, which is making it really interesting for us, and hopefully all of you at home too, because Cameron Beaubier's got his work to get cut out. Because if he wants to get by Tony Elias, he's got to go by Claudio Corti, a very motivated Claudio Corti, I might add, who looks like he's doing his best to stay there. Josh Herrin right at the back, right behind Roger Lee there. So we see a lot of things that are similar to what we saw in the first race.
Claudio Corti on that Houston Superbike. I had a chance to talk to team owner Bobby Scheck. They're right now running the Superstock 1000 class. I can tell you exclusive information right now that the Houston Superbike team is going to field a 2-rider Superbike team next year. Claudio Corti is under option, and they're looking for an American rider to fill that seat. So the Houston Superbike squad, with Aprilia support both from Italy and the United States, they are looking to extend their effort as Cameron Beaubier goes by that Superstock 1000 machine of Claudio Corti, moving him back to third. So you heard it here first, right on BN Sports. Aprilia in Superbike and MotoAmerica for next year. What are you seeing, Jay?
I'm seeing Josh Herrin.
He's
Josh
all over
Herrin
the place
is like,
again.
he's back where he's saying, you know what, I want another shot at leading one of these races, and he's pushed his way past Roger Hayden again, and so he is back in the mix. It looks like Claudio runs a little bit wide. Is that going to give Josh a spot? Nope. No. He's still going to be right there. But Josh also knows that the guy in front of him right now is the guy leading his class. So it's important not only for him to keep pushing to try to win one of these races as a super stock rider, but he's got to get by Corti also just to help himself in the points.
Number 24, Tony Elias. Number 1, Cameron Beaubier. Number 71 right there is Claudio Corti from Italy. It's his first season here in America racing, so he also has a good look at racetracks for the very first time, his first time to Virginia International Raceway. And you can tell that riders of this caliber, like Tony Elias from Spain and Claudio Corti from Italy, they don't need all this track time. Is now, what a move from Josh Herrin. Did you see that? He went right up the inside in turn 10 on full lean angle and was able to take over third spot. Here comes the number 2.
And this is the spot he likes to be in, and he likes to chase these guys, and he's going to get a good draft. If he can just get a little bit closer to Cameron, he's going to get a good draft. I think the big fear right now is if Cameron Beaubier is able to get by Tony Elias, is he going to be able to pull away? There's some people behind him that are used to chasing him. Roger Hayden, Josh Hayes hasn't been able to make too much of an effort to get past any of these guys. He's back there watching things just a little bit. But my big fear, if I'm Josh or if I'm Raj, I got to get by some Superstock riders and Tony Elias to get back up with Cameron.
A good look at the Monster Energy Graves Yamaha of Cameron Beaubier as Yoshimura Suzuki leads the way, and Josh Herrin a little wide as Claudio Corti looked like he wanted to take a shot at Josh Herrin. But hey, Claudio, guess what? Behind you, you have some real fast company on Superbikes. Roger Hayden and Josh Hayes right there as well. Boy, this is impressive. By the way, the fastest lap of the race last go-around was that rider right there on that yellow and black Yamaha R1. As Herrin now pushes his motorcycle wide, he gathers it back up, but he lost precious time.
Cameron's getting pretty good up in this little section. He's close enough right now to do something with Tony here, up here into turn 10. So you might see him hook it underneath. Not quite close enough. Tony was good just on the exit there. And Cameron just got a little bit wide. But that's the spot, too, where I think if Josh Herrin gets close enough to these guys, he's been proven to us that he can go by these guys up on the entrance into turn 10.
25 laps. That's what this race is scheduled for. I see Bobby Fong there just off in the distance, running in 7th with a Danny Eslick right behind him. Here we go onto that front straightaway. Superbike versus Superbike. Yamaha of Cameron Beaubier leans it over, and you can see that aging, quote-unquote aging GSXR 1000 has a lot of legs.
Well, it doesn't hurt that Tony Elias doesn't weigh much either.
Yeah,
right?
he does.
So, yeah, exactly. He's not a big guy. So
and he gets behind the bubble too.
Yep. And now look, Raj is getting a little desperate. I can see it. There you go. I can see that coming.
That's a dirt track move. He just squared him straight up.
He just squared him up like as if it was at Earl's Ranch.
Yeah.
And you know, I could see it. I could see it before it happened, and it looked like he was getting a little desperate, and he's going to be the same way. Now, he's got a little bit of history after this afternoon with Josh there in the first race, but he sees those two guys disappearing at the front. He's got to make quick work of Josh Herrin here real soon.
Claudio Corti would look over his shoulder. He sees nothing but Josh Hayes. So Hayes now makes the move. Oh, and look at that. Josh Herrin made it easy for Roger Hayden.
So it looked like what Claudio was basically saying is like, let's let the Superbike guy go, and then I'm going to just go battle this out with Josh Herron in our own class. Because what's ended up happening now is we've got a little bit of separation, and we'll see now if Raj is able to close this gap. Did he wait too long? Now, Hayes is going to have to wait, as you see. Claudio Corti pulls up. Does he have a problem? This is huge for the Superstock Championship. If so, looks like whatever problem he had, maybe he just missed a gear.
Maybe missed a gear.
Missed a gear up the top there. And
felt better just pushing it wide and not trying to clean anyone out.
That's right. Now here's Josh Hayes. Josh Hayes is going to try to make a move as we look back at the front. Cameron Beaubier still trying to work hard to get by Tony Elias. Is he close enough this lap? It looks like he is.
Side by side they go. No. Elias slams the door shut on Cam Beaubier. As Beaubier now, the front end of that motorcycle looks a lot better than it did. So the changes that they made, looks like Beaubier is a lot more comfortable, especially in desperate times when he's got to get late on that lever.
It was a great point, Greg, that you just made, because I was getting ready to say the same thing. If you noticed,
I read your mind.
If you look how he went through the kink, he was able to pull up on him there. And in the race earlier, the guys were pulling away from him. He's got something sorted out on the front of that bike. This pace right now, 25.3 is what these guys are running. I believe the Cameron will probably dip it into the fours if he's able to get by Tony Elias soon. Now, how far back is Raj? Raj is 1.3 seconds behind and gathered up a little bit of time in sector 1, but you can see 1.3 seconds looks like so much. Tony Elias has obviously got a lot more feel on the front end of that bike too, because I believe that's a faster lap time already than he ran earlier. And Cameron just cannot do anything with him in this particular section. Where Cameron's going to try to do it again, I believe, is going to be down in the turn 1 area, and you can see there's a big gap now back to 4th place to Josh Hayes.
So Tony Elias, the number 24 from Spain on the Yoshimura Suzuki, came here as a fill-in rider for injured Jake Lewis, put on quite a show at the beginning of the year with 3 race wins, now finds himself at the sharp end of this Superbike race number 2 from VIR with the number 1 plate, Cameron Beaubier, right behind him as they start to pull out on Roger Hayden. And Roger's got to be thinking, I just said it to Christy Lee, I've got to go better at the beginning of this race, and now look at myself, I'm in 3rd spot. Look, for anyone else on this racetrack other than these two, 3rd might be pretty good. Roger Hayden, I think, has had enough of finishing anything other than a win.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. He just turned the fastest lap of the race, so he's coming 25 flat for Raj on that last lap with the quickest sectors in sector 2. So he closed that gap up in sector 2, so he's doing something right up there.
And Jason, by the way, that 25 flat less than half a second slower than he did yesterday in better conditions with a qualifying tire.
Yeah, and it looked like Cameron was having a quick little look underneath Tony there. He wasn't able to make it. So as long as Tony can hold up Cameron just a little bit, by holding up, I mean by 0.2 of a lap, if Raj can just kind of get on the back of them in the next lap or two, that's going to be big. But yeah, exactly right. Raj just got his head down. Maybe they made an adjustment there.
Look, for those of you joining us for the first time here, MotoAmerica Superbike Series, a good thing to look at. Look at Tony Elias's helmet and his leathers. You see that bright yellow? That is an easy way to distinguish between those two riders, along with that number 24 and number 1. It is a blue, white, and red Suzuki GSXR 1000 leading that Monster Energy Graves Yamaha, the blue and black and white machine of Cameron Beaubier. Here's his teammate Josh Hayes, who won earlier today in 4th spot as Roger Hayden continues to go after it. And here's the super stock battle right now. It's the number 69. Okay. All right, this is something that we've been hoping for. This is Danny Eslick on the 69. Number 2, Josh Herron. These two riders a number of years ago used to go after each other in the 600 class, and they are friendly, but there is no love lost on the racetrack.
Well, let's not forget Bobby Fong also is sitting right there. Those 3 guys have all battled on 600s. All 3 of them have had a little bit of history with each other, so that's going to be a great fight as we go back to the front here with Tony Elias and Cameron Beaubier. And here we go, the super stock battle right behind it. Danny Eslick leading, and Josh is like, I want to go underneath. But Danny Eslick laid on the brakes, fresh back from Le Mans last week, went and raced the Moto2 event, and I think it gave him a whole other perspective of how guys are pushing over there and how hard it is. He's come back here really, really hungry. This is going to be a great battle all the way to the end between these 3.
Danny Eslick, number 69 on the TOBC Racing Yamaha R1, loves to slide the motorcycle around the dirt track, loves that kind of action. And Josh Herron told me straight up in his trailer on Friday when we were having a conversation, if I see Danny Eslick in front of me, I want to do nothing but beat Danny Eslick. And he's got the bit between his teeth right now. I may have over-exaggerated that just a little bit. But 3 amazingly talented riders coming out of the Moto2 class last week. So Danny Eslick was able to get another weekend of road racing under his belt, keep the rhythm going.
Yep, and that's important. And Bobby Fong is sitting there right behind these 2 guys a little bit. We got 17 laps to go. These guys were used to a couple years ago running a little bit shorter distance races on little smaller bikes. Now these bikes, a lot more horsepower. You can see Danny spinning up the rear pretty good there. But when Danny's bike spins, do you notice how it spins straight? When Josh's bike spins, it spins sideways. We want a bike that's going to spin straight. And that's the big key that we're going to look for in this battle as the race continues to wear on. Danny's bike has a tendency that when he gets it up off the edge and it kind of wants to spin straight, and Josh's wants to spin a little bit sideways. And we don't, you know, hopefully this group can stay together. But if it continues like that, you got to give the edge to Danny.
That's the Superstock 1000 battle, easily distinguished by those red number plates right there. And it's also the battle for 5th overall. So it's Danny Eslick right now. That's that white and yellow motorcycle, 69, leading number 2, Josh Herron, on the Yamaha, and the Kawasaki of Bobby Fong right in the mix. Fong with a couple wins early on in the season in the Superstock 1000 class on that latest motorsports Kawasaki ZX-10R out of Stockton, California.
Yeah, Bobby's just, again, he's another one of those guys that I've been lucky enough, and we've all been lucky enough to watch all these kids grow up, but he's just matured so much. You got something to add on Bobby there, Christy?
Yeah, Jason, you mentioned what different machines these 3 riders have been on over the past couple years. Bobby Fong was on a Triumph 675 last year, completely different bike than that Kawasaki ZX-10. Although a different bike, it's still the same team for him, the latest Motors team. And the team is really, I wouldn't say struggling, but they're having some issues just kind of adapting to newer bike, but they're really pushing through and getting good on it.
Thanks, Chrissy. As we just saw now, Cameron Beaubier and Tony Elias go completely sideways, and Cameron Beaubier now takes over that lead from Tony Elias. This is the time right now. What has Cameron Beaubier been doing to go to school on Elias, as Roger Hayden has closed that gap by putting down some fast lap times? 25.5s is what we saw from Elias and Beaubier last go around, with Roger Hayden at a 25.3. Now, does Beaubier have, and his crew have, this motorcycle sorted, and can he pull away from this pair of Suzukis?
Well, this is the big thing that we're going to have to look at now, because Roger's going to be desperate to get by his teammate, because his teammate has been running a fantastic race, has more pace than he did at the beginning of the last race, but Roger's going to be wanting to get by him to go chase Cameron, and Josh Hayes has closed up on all 3 of them. But you can see what's happening here at the front, Greg, as they went down into turn 1. Tony got the bike out chattering just a little bit and sideways. He's still trying to get the bike even to slow down to make the turn. Cameron was able to get the bike turned up underneath him, make that pass nice and clean, and off he goes. He's got some clear track ahead of him.
So Beaubier comes across the stripe after taking over the lead in turn number 1, and he throws down a 25.5. And that miscue by Tony Elias, a 25.9. So Roger Hayden, Josh Hayes, Danny Eslick continues in 5th spot. Now Cameron Beaubier has got his head down. He's got a clear track in front of him. He's got race 1 behind him. He's not even close to thinking about that situation. Everything looks good. It feels good. Now we could see, though, when that situation happened, Cameron talked about him getting distracted in race number 1 with all the action that was going on around him. We did see Cam turn his head and make sure that Tony Elias was not going to come across the front of his motorcycle.
Yep.
This is where Cameron Beaubier really shines. He loves to be out front and have this track to himself.
No, that's exactly right. Now he can just focus on what he wants to focus on. He's proven in the past that he can lead races and still run really, really fast lap times. And I think the fact that Tony and Raj are both trying to go with him as best that they can right now, this is where I kind of call it, when you're leading a race like this, you're kind of grinding out laps. You're trying to put down laps. You're trying to break your competitors that are behind you. You're watching your pit board very intently, as Cameron will. He runs a little bit wide there, though. I saw him run a little bit wide in turn 10. That's going to help those guys pull up on him just a little bit. But he's going to be watching his pit board, looking at his time, see what he's doing, and seeing how hard he's pushing as we see our first real back markers coming up. It looked like maybe Taylor Knapp or someone the lap or 2 ago was pulled over on the left-hand side. I saw him, but it definitely looks like, looks like they just went by Jeremy Cook there. He got out of their way perfect. Good on Jeremy for that.
So here we go, 14 laps to go. Tony Elias
back on him, isn't he?
Back on him, even though the motorcycle was spinning up coming onto that front straightaway and bouncing around. But Tony's able to close up, but he's not able to get that motorcycle turn like Cam is. So he closes for a moment. This rider, so much experience, Moto2 world champion. just a couple years ago.
Look who's coming.
Yeah, Josh Hayes.
He's coming. 25 flat that last lap, Greg. 25
Fastest
flat.
lap of the race for Josh Hayes.
Yep, and he's, you know, this is, I think yesterday after he qualified 10th, if you'd have told him he was going to win a race and then be right back up in that battle for the lead, I think he would have taken that. But look at Raj. Raj is now trying to start to just have a look at where Tony's at here, where he might be able to make a pass. But you can see Tony's pace. That Yoshimura Suzuki crew did a great job at whatever adjustments they may have made for him. They've done a fantastic job because he's been able to keep the pace up here. He's dropped back down to the 25.3s to Cameron's 25.4. And here goes Raj trying to go up underneath in turn 10. Just testing the waters right now.
Okay, I thought he was going to make a move, but that has allowed Josh Hayes to suck right up to the tailpipe of Roger Hayden. So Roger Hayden has plans of his own moving forward, but he's got to know that the number 4 is right there.
And you watch right now. Josh is going to try to go underneath Raj down into turn 1. I've seen this picture before. Raj has got a little bit wiggle out of there, but Josh is going to get in that draft, and he's going to try to get himself between those two Yoshimura Suzukis.
So here comes Josh Hayes, number 4. Oh, didn't quite get the drive that Roger Hayden got. I think that was really the start of it. We saw a little spin coming from the rear tire of Josh Hayes, as now Tony Elias, who closed up ever so slightly on Cam Beaubier. The gap remains the same, 0.3 of a second. 25.4s. So the pace hasn't picked up from Cameron Beaubier, but it's definitely staying very consistent.
Yeah, very, very consistent for sure. He's able to just run his pace right now, and he's kind of dragging these guys along with him. And there's just places where it seems like he's a little bit better than them, and then we get into this little section here, and Tony and Roger look like they're able to pull right back up onto the back of the Yamaha by the time they get to turn 10.
All right, let's look at the running order right now. It's Cameron Beaubier, Tony Elias, Roger Hayden, Josh Hayes. In 5th spot, Danny Eslick, Josh Herron, Bobby Fong. They're battling it out back there, changing positions. Hayden Gillum in 8th, David Anthony in 9th, and Kyle Wyman rounding out your top 10. With Jake Lewis coming back, the former Yoshimura Suzuki pilot, now in the M4 Suzuki team. His first weekend back, he circulates in 11th.
And I think the one guy we got to mention, Greg, Claudio Corti, all the way back in 13th spot. So he definitely does have a problem. His last lap was a 35.8. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about that battle for that Superstock Championship, as our leaders put another lap under the belt. All 4 of them come across the line in the low 25s again, and they're all line astern right now.
These riders, all of them with tremendous amounts of experience. Cameron Beaubier, multi-time champ in his career. Knows how to manage a race. He knows how to collect points as well, as does Josh Hayes, Tony Elias, and of course Roger Hayden has a championship, a national championship back in 2007.
Yeah, all 4 of these guys are champions, and all 4 of them right now this is our top 4 in the championship. So this is exactly what we all want to see. And you can see Josh runs over that curbing a little bit more than these 2 guys, but he's trying to line Raj up really hard right now. He wants to try to get up there and see if he can push the pace. And knowing Josh the way we know him, and we've made a lot of comments about it in the past, he doesn't like to sit behind people for very long. He likes to make it go and go by guys and then try to get up there and set his own pace. And this is about as close as we've seen him up in this area. We thought earlier on he might try to do something down into turn 1. All it's going to take is one good shot. If he can get out of that last corner well, he will try to go up underneath Raj.
Josh Hayes, the number 4 Monster Energy Graves Yamaha, just behind number 95 Roger Hayden. That's the Yoshimura Suzuki. Josh Hayes is your championship points leader over Roger Hayden by 14. So in this particular case, Hayes knows with having these riders as close as possible, he might want to wait till those later stages of the race before he starts making those moves, even though he does like to lead. And does my foot go in my mouth? Yes, it does. I just ate a bunch of toenails because Josh Hayes goes right up to 3rd spot, and now he's going after Tony Elias.
Yeah.
I gotta wash my feet.
Toenails, huh? All right, well.
Just put my foot in my mouth.
He's, you know, he's going to the front right now, and that's the thing is we've been able to look at his lap times. I'm looking at his sectors. He actually just ran the fastest speed down the front straightaway too, so that draft definitely helped him. And you know, I think that he definitely has the pace. And you watch when he gets up to the back of Tony, he's not going to be looking for very long. He's not going to sit there for 3 or 4 laps. He's gonna push past as quickly as he can. So if I'm thinking the way he does right now, I would think that he's probably thinking he's got to get back up onto the back of him going into the last corner and just do his work up through here. Remember earlier on today, I'd mentioned that this is where Josh has won a lot of races in this top half of the track because he's so good at being able to just straight line things. And Cameron's doing a great job leading. The last lap, 20 25.7, 25.7, 25.6 for Raj, with Josh doing 25.5. So they're just kind of dropping Raj off right now, and we'll see if Raj can kind of get his head back down and get back in there with him.
A good look at Josh Hayes, the number 4, as he tries to get the drive on the straightaway right behind that Suzuki GSX-R 1000. And now it looks like Hayes could possibly make that move into 3rd spot as we have a look at. And there he goes into 2nd spot. So into 2nd spot goes Josh Hayes around Tony Elias on a great drive out of that corner, using the horsepower of that Yamaha R1 to draft right on by that Suzuki. And now he's got one more rider in his sights, his teammate and championship rival from last year, Cam Beaubier.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you, one race win. Josh is charged up right now. He is fired up, and where he just made that pass coming across the start-finish line, that was flat out and sticking your nose underneath somebody at a fair degree of lean angle and 6-gear pinned, and that's where he was able to get that draft pass done. As he's right up the back of Cameron now.
Look at him. Is Hayes going to make a move this early? There he goes. Up the inside goes Hayes to take over the lead. Cameron Beaubier probably surprised at that one. So Josh Hayes, who looked for a moment like he was going to roll out of it a little bit and take a Sunday cruise, maybe manage the tires. No, he goes straight to the front with 10 laps to go. Now what does Cameron Beaubier have? What a surprise as our race 1 winner, winless for the first couple rounds of the season. The number 4 plated Josh Hayes wants that number 1 back, and this is a good way to go after it.
Yeah, and it's just so classy watching Josh ride. I'm so used to looking at his riding style, and when we get back up into that turn 9-10 area in a minute, I'll point something out to you guys. But if you look at him going right now, he's got his head down. I'm going to be looking at the lap times and seeing what kind of times he's doing, because I think that he has the opportunity to maybe break away. But Cameron has proven in the past that when Josh goes by, he learns. He sits there and he watches, and he's going to chase his teammate, and he's going to draw these 2 Yamaha bikes right along with him, and you can see Josh getting that thing stood up and sideways, still pushing really hard to get away.
There's no question that Josh Hayes knows VIR. He's won a lot of races here in a lot of different race organizations over the year. Last year he came, as Beaubier has got to lift the front wheel up going over those curves, but Josh Hayes knows his way around this track so well. Last year he came here and did the double victory, and I asked Hayes about it, and he said, look, it wasn't a commanding victory in terms of bike setup or anything. It was that it was so hot here, everyone was getting sick, and he was just the rider who knew how to manage his body better.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been training really hard. So if you watch him come up over the top, I want you to pay attention to how little his body moves. He just gets it from side to side just enough. Now, when he goes to this left, watch him go through this right and pick his right knee up. We're back on Cameron, but you can see Cameron do it too. Just pick their knees up just a little bit from that concrete on the inside. Earlier on, Josh had that bike sideways and his knee up. It looked really good, but now they're heading down into turn 10 and 11 here. And we're looking, I'm just looking down the track here. There was something on the track I could see, but these 2 guys now have started to separate themselves from that Yamaha Suzuki team.
Josh Hayes leading from Cameron Beaubier. Tony Elias, Roger Hayden, Danny Eslick in 5th over Josh Herron, Bobby Fong. David Anthony has worked his way to 8th around Hayden Gillum. Kyle Wyman in 10th. Jake Lewis, Frankie Babushka, Claudio Corti still holding on to 13th. That's 3 points for him overall, as well as Anthony Kosinski and Max Flinders. There's your top 15.
Yeah, and you guys saw that little piece of debris there in the track. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but there's something definitely on the track down in the turn 1 area, and that is what had caught my attention a little bit earlier. And look at Josh rolling here. He rolls it in there really, really tight. So that was the pass for the lead that we talked about earlier. He actually got that pass completed, Greg, before they went under braking.
So this was Josh Hayes and his pass into 2nd spot, which is going to set up the move eventually for the pass for the lead. We haven't seen a lot of passing in turn number 7. This one underneath the bridge, but it's a great opportunity. And that's what Josh Hayes did. So comfortable using the camber and the uphill of that corner to slow that big Yamaha R1 down.
Yeah, that's where we talked about earlier. Turn 10, you go up over that curving too. He's able to get the bike sliding and then wheelie right up over the top of that curve, and it looks so clean and nice, and it's so fast. And with as little movement as he has on the bike, he just gets the bike to change direction so quickly.
You mean movement body-wise?
Yeah, he doesn't jump all over the bike too much. If you look at where he's at, he's very centered on the bike. He's getting that bike loaded the correct way, and that's why he's got so much grip. And you can see this is going to be a fast lap for him as he's pulled away a little bit from Cameron Beaubier.
So Josh Hayes comes across the stripe at 25.4, his fastest lap, 25.0. And now Tony Elias is throwing a shot at Cameron Beaubier. He gets that Suzuki turned. Will Beaubier try to go back underneath him? No, as they go by that debris and off the racing line. So now it's Tony Elias who has the bit between his teeth. Can he start to close the gap on Josh Hayes, as Tony Elias did a 25.3, the fastest of our 4 riders last go around. There's a lot of fight in this young Spaniard, and he is going after the 4-time Superbike champ, Josh Hayes, right now.
Did you see how awesome he backed that thing in there? He got it just underneath Cameron and wasn't totally completely past, but he had that bike back then. He's in deep here.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in deep. I can tell. I can tell. I can just see by the look on that body position. You can see Cameron thought maybe Tony was going to make a mistake, so he got on the gas hard and got the bike all sideways. But, you know, I could see that body position going in, and he didn't look quite comfortable, and he ran it just a little bit wide.
Tony Elias, up and over the curb, and boy, that's a hard hit on that suspension. Tony Elias loves dirt track racing. AMA Pro Flat Track champ Jared Mees went to Spain, got to hang out with Tony Elias for an entire week. He said, Tony took care of me. He brought my bike everywhere. He fed me. He did everything. He loves dirt track, and he was showing his dirt track skills right in front of Cameron Beaubier as Josh Hayes continues to eke away. Last go around, it was 0.4 of a second, and now it's extended to 0.7 of a second over Tony Elias as 25.3 for Josh Hayes.
And Tony's just diving into turn 1 so early, and he's a little bit wide. You can see that little bit early entry has pushed him wide in the middle of the corner, but generally when you get into a corner too fast, Greg, you start to navigate your eyes towards that inside. And we're back here with Josh Herrin, Danny Eslick, and Bobby Fong.
Super stock 1000 battle going on. Those red number plates as Herrin gets a turn to the inside, as now Danny Eslick has a look over his shoulder because he's seeing, is there an eye full of Fong? And this is the lead for the class in Super Stock 1000. That battle for 5th rages on. So much history between these riders back in 2009, 2010. I mean, we saw it on camera. They used to just throw their hands up at each other. They used to whack into each other, crash each other out. And boy, it took many years to repair the damage between these 2 riders. I asked Josh Herrin earlier this weekend, what started it? He said, I don't know what started it, but I certainly wanted to finish it. These riders look for each other whenever they go out on the racetrack and practice and qualifying, and they find themselves in the mix right now. And Jason, let's talk about it. When you have a rivalry like that, how much extra does the motivation really help in your speed?
Well, it's when you lose a battle like this, you hate it. You go to bed at night and you struggle, and you can just hardly wait to get to the next round to try to redeem yourself. And you know, I think as they've gotten older, there is a maturity level that you see with all riders, and it starts to go up. And these guys have always respected themselves as riders, but it doesn't mean that they like losing to each other or rooting for each other. And Bobby Fong is just sitting there. He's waiting to collect.
Bobby Fong could be the babysitter that sends these 2 to their room. As now Bobby Fong looks like he's trying to go around the outside of Eslick, but that's a hard thing to do when Eslick is so good on the brakes. Up the inside of Herrin he goes in the Super Stock 1000, but there's Fong. Oh, and it was open for a moment as these 3 riders get so close to touching each other. Wow, that's the kind of racing we love to see in Super Stock 1000.
It's hard for Bobby Fong to go around the outside of Danny Eslick when Danny Eslick's going underneath Josh Herrin, you know?
And Herrin make a mistake there.
Just a little one. And we've seen this gap kind of fluctuate between Herrin and Danny Eslick on our screen, because Danny had it up to like 1.1, 1.2 seconds just a few laps ago. And now either he's made a mistake or Herrin's dropped lap times or whatever to get it back down to catching Danny back up. But Bobby Fong has stayed pretty calm back there in 3rd, and you know, 5 to go, we might start to see that Kawasaki start to want to do something with these 2 Yamaha riders, because these guys have been beating on each other the whole race long.
This is the battle for 5th spot overall between Josh Herrin, Danny Eslick, and Bobby Fong. 69 is They're right on, and we're back up front just like that because we have two classes going on. This is the Superbike class, and we're looking at Tony Elias right now as Josh Hayes is working his way through traffic. Look how quickly Elias is able to close down on the brakes on Hayes, and he's dragging Cameron Beaubier right with him.
Yeah, somewhere along the line there, we've seen a lot of back markers back there, but Raj is gone. Raj is still in the race, obviously, but that last lap, 26.2, that really hurt him. 26.1 for Josh Hayes on that last lap, so he must have had a little bit of back marking. You can see Raj here. He's had to go through 4 different guys, and that's going to be Raj's race run, I believe, as far as being able to compete for the victory here. And now you got to battle back at the front because this gap has closed back up now between these three.
So unfortunate turn of events for Roger Hayden, but up front we go. 21 laps in the books as they're working just about 3.5 to go.
Josh a little bit wide there. And see what happens, Greg, is when you get up to the top of that hill and you recognize that you're too wide, it pushes you out over and it gets off camber, so you can't really get on the gas. And that's why you saw Josh not really be able to do that. You can see that bike just spinning up there and then wheeling up over those curbings.
Josh Hayes, 4-time Superbike champion, but he'll admit this, he's not without fault, occasionally making errors. He rarely comes in and says, I had a perfect race. I don't think I've ever heard him say that. I make a mistake here, I make a mistake there. But Josh Hayes trying to hold it together right now. The number 4 plated motorcycle with the 24 and the 1. We have got a race in Superbike on our final race of the weekend here at Virginia International Raceway. And there goes Tony Elias. He's got to take the inside. Nope, it's a swapping position. He goes in too deep. Hayes ducks underneath and holds on.
But that's a test. That's going to let Josh know, okay,
I'm here,
there's somebody willing to do this. And you watch. This is what makes Josh so savvy. We watched him on the last lap of that race 1 where he started entering those turns tight. He's going to do the same thing now. He's not going to let Tony do that again. And what Tony does is he does that every single lap. The second that you put a bike where Tony's going to be, that's going to alter the way Tony's going to have to take that corner. And you see Josh now pulling away. Tony Elias rode the fastest lap of the race for himself on the last lap, 25-1. Cameron Beaubier, no, going underneath Tony Elias. Is he in too deep? Is he going to get it stopped?
And now Tony Elias looks like he's going to try to go underneath Beaubier as the rear wheel protesting, but no. So Tony Elias, who just moments ago threw a shot for first place, is now already getting gapped for third. So Cameron Beaubier, he's been biding his time. The laps are starting to tick away here as we only have a couple of corners to go until we have the penultimate lap. So Tony Elias, who has been running a superb race, may have just worked himself all the way back from first to third in a series of about 9 corners.
Yeah, and he's going to just have to regroup a little bit, get his head stuck in, get back down into business, because he can still, with what he's capable of doing in turn 1, he can still be a disruption in this race for Cameron very well on the last lap. And you can see Cameron closing in a lot on Josh as they head into turn 1, but he's running a bit wide.
So Cameron Beaubier tried to make up some time on his teammate Josh Hayes. A little miscue by Beaubier, and now the gap once again. If you're on the edge of your seat for beIN Sports coverage of Superbike commercial free, you should be, because we're getting down to it. Just about a lap and a half remain as Josh Hayes, who came from 9th position on the grid to work his way into the lead, he was back a couple of seconds, has put on a masterful race. Cameron Beaubier, your pole sitter, in 2nd spot. In 3rd place, number 24, Tony Elias, with Roger Hayden now out of the picture as Tony Elias is starting to lose touch ever so slightly. It's all in Cameron Beaubier's hands right now. Can he put the pressure on Josh Hayes to make a mistake? Can he, Cameron Beaubier, stay mistake-free?
Well, you know what? He's done a fantastic job to put himself back in here. This could have been his plan from the last sort of 10 laps or so, because with about 5 to go, you started seeing him getting a little bit more urgent. Now, is he close enough to do something with Josh as they come out of this last corner and head down that front straightaway? Can he get close enough to draft up near him? Now, the other thing you got to pay attention to is Josh going to go on turn 1 real tight. Cameron's not close enough this lap. This is going to make it to where Cameron's going to have to do something somewhere else. Last lap now as they come in to turn 1. You can see Josh going in there very tight.
Josh Hayes, pole putting as we call it in racing, goes in nice and tight in turn 1, protects that inside line. What's at stake right now? How about the difference between an 11-point difference between Josh Hayes and Cameron Beaubier if Cameron wins, or a 21-point difference if Josh Hayes and Cameron Beaubier is second? Cam knows this. We're getting close to the midway point of the season right now, and look at Hayes trying to scooch away from Beaubier, as now look at Cameron, he goes up underneath. What a big move.
That's a big move there, and Josh isn't giving it up.
Oh, I thought Hayes was going to try to go back. Now, Hayes passed him here before, so Hayes goes. Beaubier's trying to protect that inside line. And now it's up to Josh Hayes, turn number 10, as Beaubier keeps it so tight, and Hayes goes wide. Oh, Jason, this is an incredible race. It looks like it might be it for Josh Hayes. He's not going to be close enough to take another shot at Cameron Beaubier, or is he? Hayes right now under braking. Will he try to get close enough and see if he can draft? I can tell you from a weight standpoint that Beaubier is a little bit lighter than Josh Hayes. Josh Hayes gives about 25 pounds away to his teammate. Here we go, final corner, final lap of this race. Cameron Beaubier leads. Onto the front straightaway they come. Hayes with a great drive. He tucks into the draft of Cameron Beaubier. They'll tip it over, but it looks like Cameron Beaubier to the line will take the checkered flag.
What an awesome move by Cameron Beaubier. It was set up. It was set up earlier than that. As we see Raj come across, probably in a very disappointing fourth. Wondering if that team made any changes to the bike that just didn't quite suit Raj. We'll have to find out, and we'll let you know for Road America. But Raj shaking his head, finishing fourth there.
And in Superstock, it's Danny Eslick who comes across the line, 5th overall, and Bobby Fong ahead of Josh Herrin. What a battle those riders put on for the fans here and put on for us. So Bobby Fong in 6th with Josh Herrin in 7th spot, and Hayden Gillum on the Cycle World Suzuki, able to, after a disaster this morning in a crash, Hayden Gillum in 8th, David Anthony in 9th. Wow. Cameron Beaubier, your race winner. What a smart race by the reigning champion. Woo! That certainly was a heart pounder. We'll take a break and get all this sorted out and talk to some people on the other side. All right, we're back, everyone, and race number 2 at VIR. The last race of the weekend here of the MotoAmerica Championship is over. Cameron Beaubier, your victor by 1/10, 15/10 of a second over Josh Hayes. Tony Elias, who had a great race, just 2 seconds adrift. Gonna have to find out what happened to Roger Hayden in that one. And in the Superstock battle, it was Danny Eslick with his win, Bobby Fong, Josh Herrin, Hayden Gillum, and David Anthony rounding out your top 9. A good race all around. You can see the margins there, 25 seconds, 25.0, and on back, Kyle Wyman rounding out your top 10. Jake Lewis on his new class, Suzuki touting him to be the Superstock champion for 2017 on the new GSX-R 1000. Claudio Corti was able to get up to 12th position, so in the Superstock class it's going to be so important for his battle in the championship. Babushka, Metter, Kaczynski, Flinders on back. Now look at the Dunlop podium as we see those 2 Yamaha riders hanging out. Tony Elias with his hands crossed. You could tell that Tony, he did say that he's happy with that result, but he's already had taste of winning here in the United States, and he just wants more of it. He has never made the excuse, like we hear a lot from some riders, oh, it's my first time to the track. Tony shows up at a racetrack and says, I have the crew and the knowledge and the ability to win races right out of the box.
Yeah, and you see him. He's congratulating Cameron, just even sitting there, and he's happy. But, you know, when you're that close to winning, you always feel like as a racer, that's just one more that kind of got away. And but he's right back where he had that one little bad round in New Jersey, and he got back going up to speed here at a track that he said he liked, but maybe didn't prefer his style. As we look at the championship point standings, Greg.
So he talked about it. If Josh Hayes had won, he would have had more of a margin, but he didn't. So now it's knocked down to 11 in the championship. This race weekend could prove pivotal for Cameron Beaubier in his bid to hold on to that #1 plate. Roger Hayden with 21, and Tony Elias, he mentioned it, he's back in the mix, 26 back. Then we go back through the field, and the Superstock riders, they're classified twice, once in the points you're seeing right here, in the overall in the championship, as well as their own battle. They separate out those Superstock points, and so that gets all sorted out. Taylor Knapp, Danny Eslick, David Anthony, Pegram, who we mentioned was here for one weekend. We don't know if he'll be back, but we saw great race action all weekend long. I want to thank everyone who participated in this event, from our camera crew, TV truck, and of course Jason Pridmore and Christy Lee down on pit lane. It's been a spectacular weekend from VIR. We'll see you in a couple weeks in Road America in Wisconsin. Burn it out.